Poverty consciousness will voluntarily seize the mind which is not occupied with the money consciousness. A poverty consciousness develops without conscious application of habits favorable to it. The money consciousness must be created to order. Have you been creating the money consciousness? Oh, by the way, Tim Burgess back with Think and Grow Rich and Persistence Part 2. And the reason I ask the question is because if you don't have the money consciousness yet, that means you probably haven't been really implementing step 6 in the 6-step process from the chapter on desire. That will help you to develop what Napoleon Hill is talking about as the money consciousness. He says there is no substitute for persistence, ladies and gentlemen, none. He says it cannot be supplanted by any other quality. So there's nothing on the planet, nothing that you can do that can replace persistence. And remember, persistence is the sustained effort necessary to induce faith. You know, persistence and stubborn, for so many years I thought they were the same thing until I started studying all of this material, and then I realized they're very much different. Persistence is profitable. Persistence can lead you in the direction you want to go in this game we call life. Persistence can give you all that you truly desire in this game we call life. However, being stubborn will probably take you further away from your objective than bringing you closer to it. So remember that. Stubborn is stupid. Persistence is profitable. He says those who have cultivated the habit of persistence seem to enjoy insurance against failure. No matter how many times they're defeated, they finally arrive up toward the top of the ladder. So if you have cultivated the habit of persistence, that means you've been reading the 6 steps over and over again, because that's how we cultivate it, folks. He says that there's a part of this particular paragraph that really opened my eyes. He says sometimes it appears there is a hidden guide whose duty it is to test people through all sorts of discouraging experiences. Those who pick themselves up after defeat, when they realize it's only a temporary setback, and keep on trying, arrive, and then the world cries, "Bravo, I knew you could do it." Napoleon says the hidden guide lets no one enjoy great achievement without passing the persistence test. Those who can't take it simply don't make the grade. Those who can take it are bountifully rewarded for their persistence. They receive as their compensation whatever goal they are pursuing. Whatever goal, it doesn't matter what it is, that's what you receive. He says that is not all. They receive something infinitely more important than material compensation. Excuse me, what could be infinitely more important than material compensation? That's where my mind was when I first started reading this book. What could possibly be so much more important than money? So many things. So many things. And once again, make no mistake, money's an important tool in the toolbox of life. The book was written for men and women who resent poverty. That's why it was written, okay? So, that something that is infinitely more important than material compensation is this. It's the knowledge that every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. Now, it brings the seed of an equivalent advantage, not the full-blown flower, not the full-grown tree, the seed of an equivalent advantage. Make sure you don't confuse the seed of an equivalent advantage like the whole tree's supposed to be here and arrive. Remember, the tree has to have time to grow. He talks about next, he talks about as these lines are written, he looks up from his work and he sees this thing called Broadway, the great mysterious Broadway, where people come from all over the world seeking fame, power, fortune, whatever it is that human beings seek. And he talks about how Broadway lets no one accomplish anything without passing the persistence test. And there's a couple of examples in here, and I hope you read this chapter and you get these examples. It talks about one young lady named Fanny Hurst and how she received 36 rejection slips. 36 rejection slips before she broke the ice and got a story across. That was for the Saturday Evening Post. So 36 times she was told no. 36 times she stayed persistent in her approach to get what she wanted. She didn't stop. She didn't throw in the towel. She wasn't stubborn and said, I'm going to do it anyway. She altered her course a little bit, changed the letter, changed the method a little bit, and got a story across. And once she got the story across, she was earning so much money she didn't have time to count it, man. She passed the test that said you have to keep going. Not in a stubborn manner, but persistently keep applying the principles of success and you will reach the success that you desire. Now he talks about how persistence is a state of mind. Therefore, it can be cultivated. He says, like all states of mind, persistence is based upon definite causes, among them these. So I don't know about you, but I want to know the causes that I can create more persistence in me applying the principles of success that were organized by Napoleon Hill. Number one, definiteness of purpose. Knowing what one wants is the first and perhaps the most important step toward the development of persistence. Do you know what you want? Do you really know what you want? Step two, desire. He says it is comparatively easy to acquire and to maintain persistence in pursuing the object of a strong, intense desire. Is it just a wish? Or is it a really intense desire? Is it becoming a good obsession that's driving you? 3, self-reliance. Belief in one's ability to carry out a plan. Well, self-reliance is the opposite of self-inferiority. Self-reliance and self-confidence kind of go hand in hand. What about your self-worth or lack of self-worth? Definiteness of plans. Ladies and gentlemen, right here from my own experience is where most all people get knocked off the track. They've got the idea. Some people even know exactly what they want, but they've never taken time to organize a definite plan to accomplish or accumulate what they want. Organized plans, even though they may be weak and entirely impractical, they encourage persistence. So once again, create a definite plan and begin at once whether you're ready or not. Not a perfect plan, a definite plan. Accurate knowledge. Knowing that one's plans are sound based on experience and observation encourages persistence. Cooperation. Sympathy, understanding, and harmonious cooperation with others. Willpower. Willpower, what is that? We've heard that over and over again all our lives, but what the hell is it? What is willpower really? Well, if you've been following these videos, you know what it is. It's the habit of concentrating one's thoughts upon the building of the plans for the attainment of your definite major objective, your definite chief aim. Habit. He says persistence is the direct result of habit. The mind absorbs and becomes a part of the daily experiences upon which it feeds. Fear, the worst of all enemies, can be effectively cured by forced repetitions of acts of courage. So, if you're afraid of picking up the phone and calling a prospect, pick up the phone and call a prospect. And then do it again. 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 And see what you're doing there is you are persistently applying the principles of success. You're not going to be stubborn and say, I don't have to do that. I don't feel like doing that. I don't have to do that. I'm not doing that. I'm not picking up the damn phone. What's that? Stubborn is stupid. Persistence is profitable. It's just that simple, man. Now, there are some symptoms of lack of persistence that we should go into. He says, here you'll find the real enemies which stand between you and your noteworthy achievement. Here you will find not only the symptoms indicating weakness of persistence, but also the deeply seated subconscious causes of this weakness. See, the weakness is inside of us. So let's go over this and see if we can't identify a few things, correct them, so we can develop more persistence in applying the 6 steps, so we develop faith through the principle of self-suggestion. Simple stuff. Number 1, failure to recognize and clearly define exactly what you want. Number 2, procrastination. What are we procrastinating about? We're all guilty of it. Make no mistake, everybody's guilty of procrastination in one form or another. Well, let's become aware of it and stop. Lack of interest in acquiring specialized knowledge. Indecision. The habit of relying on alibis. Self-satisfaction. He says there is but little remedy for this affliction and no hope for those who suffer from it. You know, if all you're doing is going through this life to satisfy yourself, whoo, that's pretty shallow, folks. Indifference, usually reflected in one's readiness to compromise on all occasions. The habit of blaming others. Take responsibility. Weakness of desire due to neglect in the choice of motives. Willingness, even eagerness to quit. Lack of organized plans. The habit of neglecting to move on ideas. That's called procrastination. Wishing instead of willing. The habit of compromising with poverty instead of aiming at riches. You ever compromise with poverty? What's he really mean by that? Huh? You ever clip coupons? I'm a coupon clipping individual. Is that who you are? Well, are you compromising with poverty? You're trying to save 5 cents, but you're spending 30 minutes to clip out all the coupons and search for them? What's your 30 minutes worth now? 5 cents. Searching for all the shortcuts to riches. There are none. I have spent 26 years, and I tried to find them for a long time. There are no shortcuts to riches, ladies and gentlemen. There are none. He says, trying to get without giving a fair equivalent, usually reflected in the habit of gambling or some other endeavor like that. And then 16 is the fear of criticism. This one is crippling, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake. The fear of criticism has more control over you and I than we're willing to admit. The fear of criticism has more control over us than we even realize or that we're aware of. So let's dive into this little one, this little nasty one for a minute. He says, let us examine some of the symptoms of the fear of criticism. He says the majority of people permit relatives and friends and the public at large to so influence them that they cannot live their own lives because they fear criticism. Just take a look around, folks. That is so obvious and so true in today's world. What he wrote in 1937. People conform because of the fear of criticism instead of being their true person. Instead of being who they want to be, they just go into conformity. Millions of people neglect to acquire belated educations after having left school because they fear criticism. Countless numbers of men and women, both young and old, permit relatives to wreck their lives in the name of duty because they fear the criticism that comes from it. People refuse to take chances in business because they fear the criticism that will follow if they fail. So the fear of criticism in these cases is much stronger than the desire for success. Is your fear of criticism stronger than your desire to achieve? Because if it is, and please be honest with yourself, if it is, you really should be implementing step 6 of the 6-step process so you can get over this. Get beyond it. And that's what it is. Get beyond it. Too many people refuse to set high goals for themselves or even neglect selecting a career because they fear the criticism of relatives and friends who may say, don't aim so high, people will think you're crazy. And then he goes into a section here. He says, when Andrew Carnegie suggested that I devote 20 years to the organization of philosophy of individual achievement, my first impulse of thought was fear of what people might say. Now I want you to think about this for a minute. Somebody proposes to you that you work for the next 20 years. Hey, I will give you a letter of introduction to wealthy people, but other than that, you will have to pay your own way to organize this philosophy of success. Would you have done it? I'm not sure I would have. The suggestion set up a goal for me far out of proportion to any I have ever conceived. In other words, his goal was huge. He had never thought of anything that big. And then he says this, as quick as a flash, my mind began to create alibis and excuses, all of them traceable to the inherent fear of criticism. He says something inside of me said, you can't do it. The job is too big and requires too much time. What will your relatives think of you? How will you earn a living? No one has organized a philosophy of success. What right do you believe you can do it? Who are you anyway to aim so high? Remember your humble birth? What do you know about philosophy? People will think you're crazy, and they did. Why hasn't some other person done this before now? Napoleon says this question and many others flashed into his mind and demanded attention. He says it seemed as if the whole world had suddenly turned its attention to him with the purpose of ridiculing him into giving up all desire to carry out Mr. Carnegie's suggestion. How many times have you known that you absolutely have a great opportunity, but one comment from somebody, and you started to doubt yourself? You started to doubt the opportunity. Why would we allow that to happen? And if you're honest with yourself, you know that has taken place. There's no question about it. And then he continues, he says, I had a fine opportunity then and there to kill off ambition before it gained control of me. Later in life, after having analyzed thousands of people. Now remember, Napoleon analyzed and interviewed thousands of people prior to the writing of this book. Because of that, analyzing thousands of people, he discovered that most ideas are stillborn and need the breath of life injected into them through definite plans of immediate action. The time to nurse an idea is at the time of its birth. Every minute it lives gives it a greater chance of surviving. The fear of criticism is at the bottom of the destruction of most ideas which never reach the planning or action stage. Has the fear of criticism ruled your life? Have you stopped moving forward on a project because somebody criticized in some way, somebody ridiculed in some way? Have you let go of dreams, goals, and aspirations, desires that you may have, because somebody might think they're silly? What I want in my life is silly to most people. The number of boats that I'd like to accumulate and acquire is absolutely absurd. Shoot, my wife even told me I was nuts. I'm not paying attention to her at that point. I love her, I'm just not paying attention to her. Why would I? If it's a desire I have and it's in here and it's not violating the rights of anybody else, why would I subject myself to the fear of criticism from anyone? If we do that, we're not living our own lives, ladies and gentlemen. We're living our life for somebody else. You want to live your own life. So persistently apply the 6 steps. Persistence, the sustained effort necessary to induce faith. So continue to read the 6th step in the 6-step process, and you will continue to induce faith. There's no question about it. As always, we want to thank Joe. Joe, I greatly appreciate you, my friend, more than words will ever be able to communicate to you. And I'm sure that there's many, many people watching these videos that believe the same thing. Thanks, Joe. So why don't you tell him? Thanks, Joe. As always, one of our greatest desires is that this day be the greatest day, the very best day you have ever experienced in this game we call life. Yesterday doesn't matter, it's gone. Tomorrow isn't here, you can't do anything about it. However, today we can make a decision right now to be happy and to allow this day to be the best day we've ever experienced. That's up to us. Tonight when you put your head on a pillow, please do so with a mind full of peace. Calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. And may God bless each and every one of you. Have a fabulous day today.